It's a mailbag time from Anthony, a $5 super chat. He says, honestly, I'm worried about the kicker position. I hope they extend Diggs and Lamb and Steele and Martin. P.S. Going to see him in Oxnard this week. Sounds like you're going, Anthony. It's a blast. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Kicker concerns are absolutely valid. They are not, it's uncertain. You know, Tristan Vizcaíno and Brandon Aubrey have not played that much among kickers, so it should raise some red flags there. Diggs, Lamb, Steele, Martin, they can pay all those guys if they want to. It won't be a massive salary cap impact in year one either. We'll push out some money into the future. That's fine. You want to pay your good players. I think those are pretty clearly among the four biggest priorities right now for this Dallas Cowboys team in terms of, hey, Martin's now trying to jump the line, quote unquote, with his holdout threat, etc. So paying those guys is a big priority for the Dallas Cowboys. We will wait and see if it ends up getting done and when it ends up getting done. Kevin Lopez, this was actually a super thanks, by the way. I want to appreciate Kevin for that one. He says, crazy thought for Amari Cooper at the trade deadline. If wide receiver 3 doesn't work out and the Browns season is going downhill since Dak has chemistry with Amari. It's a fun idea, and I appreciate these super thanks, by the way, Kevin. I would not get my hopes up for an Amari Cooper trade for a couple different reasons. The Browns, from their organizational perspective, are trying super hard to win football games right now because they have committed a ton of money to current players on the roster. They are desperately trying to win games for their players and for their own jobs. The Browns right now are in a win-now scenario. If they don't win games here, if they don't make a playoff push, there's a decent chance they all end up getting fired. And that's not something an organization wants to do. So even if they're like, 2-3 wins, 2-3 games under 500 or whatever at the NFL trade deadline, they still might try to win because if they trade away players like Amari Cooper, that's going to set themselves up for major issues where they might end up trading away a player for a 4th-round pick or whatever, and now they're in danger of being cut altogether, etc. So I do want to mention this was a super thanks, and I'm very appreciative of that, Kevin. Super thanks is a newish feature here on YouTube. It allows you to donate stuff outside of live shows, etc. It's really awesome there. By the way, on Amari Cooper here, he still had 1,000 yards last season. He still did. He was really impactful last year for the Cleveland Browns, and that is in spite of the fact that the play quarterback really wasn't good in Cleveland. If you got an honest answer out of Amari, he'd still say, yeah, Dak's the best quarterback I've played with in the NFL because the Jacoby Brissett, Deshaun Watson timeline wasn't exactly the best from that level of play. Watson was actually pretty bad last year for the Browns. This is still a constant conversation around Cowboys social media, so one more chance to vent for you. Do you regret the Amari Cooper trade? Y for yes, N for no. This is actually going to be today's pinned comment, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let us know. Y for yes, N for no. That last question from Kevin was a super thanks, by the way. It is a new feature here on YouTube. You can donate outside of live videos. Click the thanks icon, edit your message, send in whatever you want to send in, and we will give you a shout out if you send in a super thanks or, of course, a super chat here on YouTube. Big appreciation to every single one of you guys who support the show, whether it's through super thanks, super chats, or just watching and being subscribed to us here at the Cowboys Report. You guys are the absolute best. Really do appreciate your support here, and I always will at the Cowboys Report. Big ups to you guys. Please never change. You guys make my life really awesome. All right, from Brandon Clark, trade for J.K. Dobbins since the Ravens got Melvin Gordon. I don't really think at this stage in his career, Melvin Gordon should really be moving the needle for you in terms of what he brings to an NFL organization. Melvin Gordon is, I think he's maybe more of an RB4. Like he's in like the, we signed Zeke type of player. Like that's what you're getting at this point. Dobbins, I'm curious what happens there. I believe he showed up to training camp. He kind of skipped some of OTA's mini camp. He's on the PUP list right now because he's kind of banged up. I would be hesitant to trade for Dobbins. Even with a new coaching staff, the Ravens still want to run the football. that is still a big priority for them, and Dobbins is going to be a featured part of that offense. And the trade value for Dobbins is probably a little bit higher than what you'd like to have for a player of his caliber in terms of giving up a premium draft pick, right? And he's going to be a backup to Tony Pollard when all things are said and done, which makes figuring out the trade value fairly complicated from that perspective. And that's probably an unlikely trade idea, but it's a fun one. And if Dobbins really wants a new deal or gets cranky and is healthy, maybe it could make some sense. I would not be surprised, by the way, if at some point the Cowboys make a trade for a running back. So what do you think ends up happening? Will the Cowboys trade for a running back? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Get those votes in for me in the comment section. Will the Dallas Cowboys end up making a deal for a running back? Not even a player of J.K. Dobbins' caliber, just somebody out there on the running back market. Get those predictions in for me in the comments. 1 for yes, they will. 0 for no, they will not. Will the Cowboys make that deal for a back? Mazi Smith rookie jerseys are on sale, folks. Chatsports.com/Mazi. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. You want to rep the Cowboys' first-round pick, Stan Fatties only, do with a Mazi Smith jersey. Chatsports.com/Mazi. Let's move to Drew Walters. Did you get Cesar Ruiz from the Saints? This is a player that's been mentioned in years past on this show, of player that they liked coming out of Michigan. The issue for Ruiz, frankly, is that he has not been the same caliber of player that I think the Cowboys thought he would end up being in Michigan. He's actually been kind of mediocre, if that even, for the New Orleans Saints. He's not been that impactful, that impressive. He's just had problems across his time in the NFL. The Saints don't have that much depth along the offensive line either, which makes things kind of complicated. So it gets dicey in terms of being able to find the trade value, bring him in. Is he better than, maybe he's a better left guard option than what you have right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's locked and loaded and set up to be a premier player for you. So it's a decent name, maybe a good name to consider at the NFL trade deadline. In the event the Saints are bad and the Saints are selling and Ruiz is available, maybe then it could make some sense. So speaking of trades, name a player who you guys would want to trade for. Keep it somewhat realistic is my lone request here for this portion of today's show. But name a player who you guys want to trade for on today's show. I've said no Aaron Donald before. I see Patrick Mahomes in the live chat right now. I'm not sure if that's the most feasible outcome from that perspective. It's the correct answer. If you could trade for any one player in the NFL, the right answer right now is Patrick Mahomes, but that doesn't mean it's a feasible one. So get your comments in for me. Name a player who you want to trade for right now in the comments. If you haven't already, please make sure you guys are subscribed to us here at the Cowboys Report. Only about 37% of you guys aren't subbed. And this is kind of in a down time of the year where only the diehards are watching, which means if you are watching, you got to be subbed. Otherwise, you're just going to miss out on stuff. You're not going to get all of our videos. We're going to have a ton of Cowboys training camp coverage for you coming in the not-too-distant future. So please, make sure you guys are subscribed. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. Free Cowboys videos each and every single day right here on the Cowboys Report. Nightmare DC for L. This is a really good question. What kind of contract would you give to Zack Martin? I don't know. I haven't thought about this one that much. A couple routes of maybe you just give him like a $3 or $4 million pay raise. Keep it simple. That's the route I would go if I were worried about Martin retiring in a few years. If he says, I'm going to play for 4 more years, maybe give him like a 2-year, this is a shocking number, but 2-year, $40 million extension. That's $20 million per year, gets him among the highest paid guards, and really wouldn't drastically impact your books this year and actually bring down the contract next year. From Brokov, if you could trade CeeDee Lamb for Marvin Harrison Jr. come draft time, would you do it? He was one of the most creative questions, Brokov. Probably not. because I do think there is value in knowing you have a top 10 wide receiver versus a player you are hoping is a top 10 wide receiver. Harrison will probably be a better draft prospect, and the team-controlled cost for a rebuilding team is probably why the team taking the number 2, number 3 pick wouldn't do it. If you ask me if I would trade CeeDee Lamb for the number 3 overall pick, might consider it, because that, if I needed a new quarterback, would help me acquire that. From Carl Weiser, what position will the Cowboys look for if they make a trade? Good question. There are a couple spots I would keep an eye out for here. Spots that might emerge as problem areas during training camp. Linebacker. Are the young guys emerging? Offensive guard. Can somebody become the number 6 lineman knowing that guy is going to have to start games for you this year? Running back. Does Deuce Vaughn, Hunter Lipke, Ronald Jones, Davis Dowdle, one of those guys emerge? If not, got to go find somebody. Wide receiver. That's a big area I have a concern at if Jalen Tolbert Fehoko do not emerge. And of course, kicker. Might not trade for one, but the Cowboys had a quick trigger last year. They should have the exact same mindset this season. What do you think is the biggest need right now for the Dallas Cowboys? Is it kicker, running back, linebacker, something else altogether? Do me a favor, get those votes in right now in the comments section. Last mailbag for this go-round from Jake the Funk. Could Stephon Gilmore play like 2019 Stephon Gilmore? If I recall correctly, that was years blur for me. I don't even remember what year I graduated, high school or college. I think it was 2015 for college. I don't know anymore. I believe that was his defensive player of the year, correct? He had like 50% completion rate, like double-digit PBUs and interceptions. Probably not is my answer. I would love it if they did. But I think get good CB2 play out of Stephon Gilmore, and you should be over the moon with his impact this year.